So today I'll be going over how I make these 99 to 07 f250 and 350 dash conversion panels for the 11 to 16 f350 flow console. So let's jump into the shop and I'll show you how I prep these 11 to 16 panels in order to mate them to the older Super Duty dash. So in order to prep these panels, I use a die grinder with an aluminum bit on the end, an air saw, but I mean you can use a hacksaw, an X-Acto knife, whatever, and one of these little abrasive wheels. So once you get your 11 to 16 lower dash panel, I got one that's already I've already prepped. Basically, you can see the difference here. So I remove all this honeycomb over to the outside. This is what it looks like before, and then you just use that abrasive wheel and you just grind all of this away. And then up along this top ridge, you have some more honeycomb, and I use that Dremel bit and I just grind it all out. So you can heat this with a heat gun and bend it over 90. And then down at the bottom here, you have to make a little incision like that. Cut a little V out of it because this is going to end up folding over, and then you'll end up gluing that together. And then the tops of these panels, you get all these brackets. That one gets removed. Cut that all the way over to there. Cut that out, and then cut that one out. So basically, it'll look like that when you're done. And then on the side here, basically this has to come off basically at that lower line all the way across. You just want to cut that all the way off until that lower ridge there. I'll show you guys as I go what that looks like. So I marked out where you need to cut all of these brackets off. So I'll cut them off and I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's done. So here's what it looks like now with all the brackets removed. You'll just sand these little raised nubs here flat. Just cleans it up a little bit. But yeah, so I'll get on to removing all this honeycomb under here. And then I'll show you guys what that looks like when it's done. So that's what it looks like once you got all that little honeycomb removed in there. Now will bend a little bit easier now. So yeah, I'll work on kind of removing all of this. It's kind of an imaginary line. You go from this corner kind of up to about here where the edge of that bracket was, because this ends up getting folded over quite a bit when you go to mount it in the truck. So I'll show you that. So totally forgot to mention as I'm grinding these panels down, you're going to want to remove that outer lip completely. So you can see it's kind of got that raised lip there. You want to remove it completely so it's nice and flat like this one's, whatever. Sand it off, cut it off, do whatever. You just want this outside edge nice and flat. Now that you got all this honeycomb removed, you're going to want to make your little V notch at the bottom here. So you're going to basically follow the inside of this edge, go all the way down to the bottom of the panel, and then probably an eighth inch thick V just to meet it at the bottom. Now you may need to open that up as you go to bend this over in your truck. You'll see when you put it in. Now when we get over to the other side, when you're removing this edge, you can either cut it down the top this way and then sand that little edge flat, or just cut it all the way across down this way just to remove it completely. So yeah, let's get to it. Yeah, that's basically what you want this outer edge to look like when it's all done. So now you got your panels all trimmed up and ready to test fit mock up in the truck. You're going to want to sand the back here, the inside of the lip here, this outside edge, and all this top edge to 80 grit. I only sand it to 80 grit because that's what this Dominion Sure Seal bumper plastic surgery recommends. There's the part number there for it. Whatever you get a hold of, they might recommend a coarser grit, finer grit, but that's just what this stuff recommends to get the best adhesion to. So that's what we're going to do. So here's that panel all sanded up. I forgot to mention you're going to want to sand right there and all the underside of that upper lip. Yeah, so let's go take apart the truck and get these thrown in. I'm just going to show you guys a quick thing before I get this thrown into where the center of the dash is. If your guys are wanting to be running the 11 to 16 change pocket, you're going to have to trim this, basically a lip like this, but on this side. You're basically going to have to cut that out in order for the pocket to fit beside it. And then again, you're going to want to sand this, all of this around here, all the way over, and all down this side to 80 grit. You can do this either in the truck or wait till you have it mocked up and take it back out of the truck. So I'm going to get this thrown in and then I'll show you how to mock it up. So now that you left that in or whatever, sanded it, put it back in, you're going to take your 11 to 16 piece that you just prepped, and you're just going to want to clip it onto the front of your console and then basically install your console back up to the dash. Once you have your console bolted back in, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to slide it over until the edge of this panel is in line with the edge of this panel. So when it's loose, you can move it all left and right. So basically you want to slide it all the way over and bolt it down so it can't move or shift at all when you're screwing these two together. Now that your console is bolted in, we're going to start putting in our first screws. And just to make sure your console is located in the right spot, a good way to check is just fold this piece of plastic down 90. And basically when it's 90, you want it to come in just below this cigarette lighter port. That way you know it's going to be low enough when you start screwing this together. So we'll throw our first couple screws in on this side and then we'll move over to the other side. Okay, when you're screwing in this bottom corner, you're just going to be screwing through this first panel and your screw is going to rest on top of this. So what it's basically going to do is it's going to push this panel out and hold it against the console, so you're not going to have a gap here. So see, you can move it like this. So that screw is going to just push that out to hold it against the console. Now we come over here to the other side. You're basically going to do the same thing, making sure that this is going to be seated against the console, and then you're going to bend this in and screw it about here and one more down here. If you're having trouble bending this into place, just use a heat gun, and you can kind of see I got a blue line drawn here. Just heat along this line and just slowly bend and work this in. And then once you get it in, just keep heating it so it'll relax the plastic some, and then it won't have so much spring in it. Yeah, so now we're going to put our last screw in here, so make sure you pull this kind of tight towards the console. So once you get this side all screwed in and you got a nice, it fits nice all along here on both sides, what you basically want to make sure is that the bottom of this, let's see if it'll focus, bottom of this is just a little bit higher than this, because this gets folded over we build our piece that connects these two. So you just want to make sure that this is below that, or when you fold it over, it'll end up way up here, and then you got to do it all over again. Basically lots of just trial and error fitting. Take the console in and out a couple times, make sure it goes into that pocket where you have it screwed nicely, and then we'll get to gluing. Side note, when you're installing this console, I'm not sure if this applies for all 99-07 Super Duties, but they have a stud right here, and it makes it a real pain to get the console into the dash piece, and it puts a lot of strain on it, and it can crack it. So what I've done is just keep dremeling it out until the console wants to go into that without having to be forced over this stud, or it'll end up cracking your dash piece, which I ended up doing to mine. So yeah, basically Dremel that out, but if you don't have it, you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, just a little example of it not wanting to come out unless you have it Dremeled. So you see it's sitting in right there, and if I go to pull up on it, it just clears the stud, and then you can slide it out. And then when you go to slide it back in, you can see, you can't even see the stud unless you flex this forward. So I mean, mine's not even Dremeled out enough, but basically it's a pain to slide back over the stud. But then once it goes down, you can see it sits nice and center in the hole. This part of the video we'll be covering the 99-04 style lower dash panel. Basically the same thing. You just want to make sure this fits nice up against this, and then go ahead and screw it in, and then test fit it, take the console in and out a couple times, make sure it's where you want it to be, and then we'll continue on. And then same thing down here, you want to make sure this is pulled all the way out against the console, and then just using a screw down here. Basically just use it as a spacer. And yeah, once you have that all screwed in, should be a nice gap on both sides. Should be tight to this, nice up there, nice and secured for the console. Yeah, test fit that a couple times, and then we'll get to gluing them together. What I like to do before I start epoxying them together, I just take a measurement from this upper lip here. See, it's just under 4 there, and then go over to this side and do the same, and it's just under 4 here, just to make sure that these two panels are pretty close to parallel with each other. And then when you go to epoxy them together, you know when you put your screws back in if your panel's still in the same spot. And then over here on this corner, I measure from here there to there, which is about 1.5 inches. Yeah, so before we get to epoxying these together, you're gonna make sure you have a adhesion promoter. This company recommends using an adhesion promoter beforehand, because this is a mold releasing plastic or something like that. So you have to spray this, let it dry, and then you can mix up your epoxy, plastic surgery, whatever you want to call it, and start gluing these together. I like to do just do one side at a time. That way there's always a location point. So we'll do this side first. Once this is cured, test it back in the truck, and then we'll move on to gluing this side back on. So yeah, you can use a heat gun to make this stuff dry a little bit faster, but it doesn't take too long once you spray it. So once your adhesion promoter is dry, you basically want to mix up 2 equal parts of this epoxy. If anything, a little touch more white than the pink stuff. Sorry, the black has pink, the red has the white in it. Yeah, and then mix this together. It takes about 15-20 minutes to set up in warmer temperatures. Yeah, so we'll get to gluing it together. You basically just want to daub it all over Basically just from top to bottom, just do a nice skim coat. And then you'll put your screws back in and clamp it all back together. And then let it sit for a little bit and we'll throw it back in the truck. Basically can't have too much of this stuff. The more you have, the better it'll hopefully adhere to each other, and then you shouldn't have any issues with it cracking apart. Yeah, so basically a good coat like that, and then we'll screw these two back together and then we'll let it sit for a little bit. Also doesn't hurt throwing maybe an extra screw or two just to help it clamp and keep it nice and flat. And then this little gap down here will fill later and as we heat it and bend this around. But this just kind of gets the panel as one piece before we start making some serious modifications, I guess. Yeah, so once you get it all screwed down, maybe just kind of goop this over, make sure it's nice and held down. See how it's kind of splooging out there. And yeah, let it sit. Then we're going to do the same thing with this panel, put adhesive promoter on this side and on the back side of this, and then we'll glue it together. And here we go, we did the same thing on the 99 to 04. Had to throw a clamp on there because some of the screws stripped out. But yeah, basically just want to get a nice coverage of this epoxy. Doesn't have to be pretty, we'll clean it up later. But yeah, let that cure. Pop the screws out, throw it back in the truck, make sure it fits, and then we'll do the other side. Basically, once the stuff's cured, you should be able to take all the screws out and it shouldn't go anywhere. So we'll throw this back in the truck, make sure it fits, and then we'll glue that side on. Yes, we got the panel reinstalled again. You can see that side is glued. Still fits nice over there. It fits good over here. So we'll glue up that side, and then we'll get on to finishing it up. Same thing with the 99 to 04 panel. No more screws on that side. Still have screws on this side, but we'll get it to fit up just a little bit better now, and then we'll glue that side in, and yeah. As you can see here, we got this side of the panel all glued up. That's all I have time to do today, but on the next video, it'll be about filling in this gap, making panels for that, panels for all in here. I'll probably separate the 05 to 07 style panel and the 99 to 04 style in two different videos. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed.